Thank you for joining us this evening. I would also like to thank the Berkner PTA for the cookies and water that you found near the door. Those are available for anyone who would like them. Thank you, Berkner PTA. I would like to note that in your program, you will note that we are using questions that are submitted from the audience. If you want to write a question on a card, please do so. If you need someone to pick up your card, please just raise the card and our teller will come around and get it. If you need another card, raise your hand and they will bring one to you. There's not a limit on the number of questions you can ask. One question per card, please. The League of Women Voters of Richardson and the Richardson ISD Council of PTAs are co-sponsoring the forum this evening to help voters learn where the candidates stand on the issues. We also have in attendance this evening Carolyn Potter, the president of the Council of PTAs. Thank you to Carolyn and to the volunteers from the Council of PTAs. The election for Richardson ISD Board of Trustees is totally different this year. For one thing, the election is in November. Nonpartisan local elections are usually held in May. A U.S. District Court, as part of a lawsuit, granted the Richardson ISD permission to postpone its 2019 Board of Trustees election, which was originally scheduled for May 4th, 2019, until the November 5th, 2019 general election. This gave the board time to complete a transition from the former system of electing all 7 trustees at large to a hybrid 5-2 system where 5 single-member districts exist and 2 at-large districts exist. Newly created single-member districts 2, 4, and 5 will be on the ballot November 5th. This means that only voters who live in each of those 3 districts may vote for the trustee who will represent them. Tonight's forum is for newly created District 2. Last night we had a forum for newly created District 4 with 4 candidates. Karen Clardy, who is an incumbent, is running unopposed in the newly created District 5. There is a map out in the lobby. I hope that you got to see it on your way in. If you didn't, please check it out on your way out. That shows the boundaries of the new single-member districts. The following schools lie within the boundaries of District 2. Apollo Junior High, Berkner High School, Big Springs Elementary, Canyon Creek Elementary, Dartmouth Elementary, Jess Harbin Elementary, Mark Twain Elementary, the Math Science Technology Magnet, North Junior High, Northridge Elementary, Prairie Creek Elementary, Richardson Terrace Elementary, Spring Ridge Elementary, and Yale Elementary. That's a lot of schools for one district. Besides the Richardson ISD election, there will also be 10 proposed amendments to the Texas Constitution on everyone's ballot in November. There are League of Women Voters of Texas voters' guides in the lobby with a pro-con analysis of each of the 10 amendments. Also in the lobby are copies of a separate printed voters' guide produced by the League of Women Voters of Richardson with the District 2 candidates' answers to 4 questions. There is an additional online voter's guide at the Vote 411 website, which has even more questions, I think 18 of them, that the candidates have all answered. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization which never supports or opposes candidates. If you are interested in joining the League of Women Voters of Richardson, pick up one of our membership brochures out in the lobby, or fill in a membership form on our website. Membership is open to women and men of all ages. Tonight's forum is being videotaped, and the videotape will be available in its entirety on the League's website and will be linked to on the Richardson ISD website. I'd also like to express our gratitude to the candidates, both for attending our forum this evening and for their willingness to serve. We wish them all the best during this election season. The moderator for tonight's forum is Steve Mitchell, City of Richardson Councilman representing Place 6. Is that correct? Yes. In order to allow more time for the candidate to answer questions, Steve's full biography is printed on the bio sheet that was distributed when you entered the forum, as are the candidates. Please join me in welcoming moderator Steve Mitchell.
One of the perils of being tall. There we go. Well, good evening. Thank you, Jean, for your introduction. Before we begin, I'd like to review the format and ground rules that will be in place during tonight's forum. First, please silence your cell phones or any other noise-making device. Sir, I'll give you a few seconds there. Also, flash photography is not allowed during the forum as is a distraction to the candidates. The format for the question and answer portion of the forum is printed in your program. Prior to this evening, each candidate agreed to abide by all ground rules. Many thanks to the volunteers working tonight, including the greeters at the front door, the tellers getting your written questions to the screeners, the question screeners who are seated at the table to my left, or actually to my right, or behind me, and the timekeeper who is seated in the front row. Thank you. Before I introduce the candidates, the co-sponsors have asked that you refrain from applause or any other form of support or opposition to any candidate. The purpose of the forum is to hear what the candidates have to say. So please, let's give them as much time as possible. In lieu of an opening statement, the candidates have submitted a short bio that is printed and available tonight. Also on that bio sheet is an overview of what the job of a Richardson ISD trustee entails. So with that, now to introduce the candidates in ballot order. District 2, ballot position 1, incumbent Aaron Lynn. District 2, ballot position 2, Vanessa Pacheco. The candidates have not seen the questions for tonight. Candidates, you have 1.5 minutes to answer each question. First, for the first question, we will begin with Mr. Lynn. Mr. Lynn, what do you hope to accomplish for your single-member district and for the district as a whole? You may begin.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you, Councilman Mitchell, for being here tonight and moderating this group. I know we have a short time frame, but I do want to recognize my father who's here tonight, Dr. Howard Lynn. Thank you for being here, Dad. The question is, what do I hope to accomplish for my single-member district? Well, first of all, I think it's important to recognize that the single-member district crosses two different attendance boundaries, and that's Bertner and Pierce. And so that's important to know, because when I say what I want for my single-member district, I'm not just focusing on one particular area. I'm focusing on multiple areas. So really what I want for my single-member district, what I really want for my schools, and what I want for my schools are great teachers, solid leadership from our superintendent, and to make sure that each school is safe and secure. My number one priority also is to make sure that all our children, as many as we can, to get them up to reading and writing on grade level by the 3rd grade. If we can get more kids reading and writing on grade level by the 3rd grade, that sets a solid foundation for their harder courses as they come up. As you know, as all of us know, it doesn't get any easier after the 3rd grade. It gets much more difficult.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Ms. Pacheco.
Hi, thank you all for being here. What I would want to accomplish with leadership, governance, and transparency would be pre-K for all children during the district. Mental health, so that children can concentrate on learning. Diversity, equity, and inclusion in all our schools to close gaps. And also parent and community engagement by participating and bringing in leaders and communicating with parents in all our languages. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pacheco. Okay, we'll go on to the next question, question 2. First question goes to Ms. Pacheco. A policy arises that you believe is more beneficial to your single-member district than to the Richardson ISD. How do you resolve the conflict between representing your district and representing Richardson ISD as a whole? Ms. Pacheco.
I don't really think there would be a conflict. When we have policies for the district with proper procedures and study of how a program is working in one location, we can bring it in and use that process, plan, or program for another location. Funding and adequate support of our teachers teacher retention, and bringing in new teachers from diverse places will also help improve any policies or issues that occur within District 2 as well as the other areas of our district.
Thank you. Mr. Lynn.
Well, great question, and I want to say that, first of all, I think in my experience, my 4 years experience on the school board has taught me is that when a policy comes up that represents one area, we as trustees look at it from a whole district standpoint. How is it going to affect all our 39,000 kids? How is it going to affect all of our schools? We evaluate that as a board. And I can tell you that there have been some situations in the past where we've looked at things through that kind of lens, and it's benefited all of our kids because we're in it for everybody. We're not in it for just Lake Highlands or Burtner or Pierce. The decisions made at the board level affect all of our schools, not just one, not just two. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Question 3 goes to Mr. Lynn first. What plans or programs would you support to increase campus safety? Mr. Lynn.
I'm just writing it down. Well, I can tell you that I think we've done a really, really good job in terms of our safety. Over the last 10 years, we have been working really hard to create safe schools, as safe as we can. We're ahead of the curve, I can tell you that right now. We've created vestibules at each of our campuses, double buzzer vestibules. And we just had a recent security audit that showed that we are in a very good place. But there's always room for improvement. We have SROs now at most of our campuses, and I think that's we're working in partnership with not only Richardson Police, but also Dallas Police to make sure that all of our schools have coverage. In terms of what we can do, programs that we can implement, the safety audit did showcase some things that we could do, not things that I can't really, some of which I can't discuss. But one thing I can tell you is they told us that we could improve some of our signage at our campuses. And I think we're going to start doing that, where visitors can park, where students can park, make sure that is clearly delineated. The other thing that was surprising to me is we can improve our lighting at every campus. So, and I think we're going to do that here in the near future.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Ms. Pacheco.
First of all, I'd like to say that our ISD has practiced great safety measures in all of their schools. They check IDs every time people want to pick up their child, and they have buzzers, and I really feel that our kids are safe. However, with improvements, I would think that with the strong communications that exist, we have been notified of various scares throughout the years via text and emails, and we've received notices from Dr. Stone when something concerning occurs, and all that is great. However, we still have to teach our children how to make better and positive decisions, and I go back to mental health and reducing stressors for our children. We can increase our peer mediator and our peer moderator groups to include additional students. We can include classes or programs and seminars to teach our children how to have positive conflict resolution, and that way they won't have more fights or less fights, right? Be more friendly, have more tolerance towards each other. Again, with the diversity and equity and inclusion policies, we can teach them how to better connect with others and not to be judgmental and push on certain ideals that are offensive to others and reduce conflict in that way. So that would increase safety. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to question 4. Question 4 goes to Ms. Pacheco first. Do you think that the school district puts enough emphasis on teaching fine arts and also athletics?
I think schools put a lot of emphasis in athletics overall, in general. Maybe that's just the state of Texas. But I think we need to put more emphasis in fine arts. We should have well-rounded, educated students because fine arts includes math, it includes reading, it includes creativity that also has outlets for growing ideas and discussion, and they're better and more relaxed to learn the core subjects. So we do need to improve on funding and support for fine arts, all fine arts. I think we can do that by extra funding through our own budgets, introducing maybe business leaders that are, in those types of businesses, like the Eisman Center, for example, the DSO, all kinds of different businesses that support the fine arts can be included into our district to mentor and expand on their education. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pacheco. Mr. Lynn.
It's a great question. It's one that is near and dear to my heart, having been spent 4 years in the marching band. No, not at Berkner, at Naaman Forest High School, just around the corner. But my dad over here was a coach over at Apollo when it first opened, and I spent a lot of time on the football field. And so I grew up around fine arts. I grew up around with athletics being a prominent part of my life. And the question is, do we do enough? And one of the things I really love about RISD is that there is a place for everybody. If you want to dance, you can go be in our competition team. If you want to be on the drill team, you can be a bandolera. If you want to play an instrument, you can be in the band. You want to be on the football team, you can try out. You want to be on the basketball team. We have options for our kids. And I think that is one of the most critical elements for me, and I agree wholeheartedly with Ms. Pacheco on this, that we have to, it's great we can teach our kids our academics, but we need to focus on the whole child. And the whole child is not just reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's being able to achieve success in other areas of life, whether it's band, football, or something else.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Question 5 goes to Mr. Lynn first. What lessons learned from the ACE schools would you like to see applied to all schools in the RISD?
That's a great question. So we've had 1 year of the ACE program, and one of the successes that Dr. Stone has asked us to move forward with is taking the leadership model from the principal level that's been developed at our 4 ACE schools and moving that to our second tier of schools. It's important to remember that every successful campus has a successful leader. And part of that success is making sure that the campus leader is trained in the best practices. And part of making our next level of campuses successful is making sure that our campus leaders are trained in those successful practices. So that would be, in my opinion, if we could take those best practices and move them and spread them throughout the district, we're going to be in much better shape later on.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Ms. Pacheco.
Thank you for that question. I think that ACE schools and their programs are amazing. They have really helped improve the outcome of a lot of these children that are mainly economically disadvantaged, and they reduce stressors like eating dinner because they receive an extra snack after school. They receive extra tutoring help. They have special teachers that are prepared to help children with these other types of stressors and lead them to the success that they're currently achieving. I would bring in the leadership aspect of how schools are prepared to help these students, as well as how they prepare the teachers to have different learning variety of plans to engage the students. I would also support additional homework help everywhere, as well as tutoring, and maybe some other schools still need extra after school. Overall, I know that this is an overly expensive plan, but if we progress and maintain the stronger points of ACE, it won't be as expensive as we expand it over to the different schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pacheco. And if either candidate would like for me to ever repeat a question, feel free to speak up. Okay, question number 6 goes to Ms. Pacheco. How do you view Richardson ISD's efforts regarding special education services, and how can they be improved?
I think Richardson ISD has done an amazing job with special education services. They have extremely well-trained specialized educators and programs that support every single child that needs some type of help. I have been in several art meetings, and every teacher there and every specialist there is truly concerned. They pay attention. They notify you of any changes, updates, things that need to happen. The one thing that I would like to see more is probably more retention. Somehow, and maybe it's just my personal experience, but sometimes I see the diagnosticians either rotate too much around the schools, or maybe certain service providers, or maybe they're just rotating around the schools. But I feel sometimes our students kind of need a little bit more of that connection with their teacher for a few more years versus just 1 year and then another one the next year and another one the next year. That would be the only thing I would be concerned with. But overall, I love the efforts that our ISD has done for special education.
Thank you, Ms. Pacheco. Mr. Lynn.
Thank you. One of the things I am most proud of since becoming a trustee in 2015 is advocating for increased funding for special education. And when I came on board, one of the first questions that was posed to me by one of my constituents was, do we have enough dyslexia teachers? Do we have enough special education teachers? That was something that I was happy to ask, and at the time I was told that yes, there were enough. Well, come to find out there weren't enough later on. So we've put more money in our subsequent budgets for more special education teachers. We have a fantastic leader, and Dr. Lawrence, and we're very lucky to have her here. One of the things that I would change is something that Ms. Pacheco just hit on, is I know children who are in our SPED program right now who, once they get to that, the reading and writing on grade level, the instinct is to pull those supports away from the student. In many cases, those supports need to remain, because that child is functioning a whole lot better with those supports there. And if there's one thing I would change, is to make sure that once a child has supports, those supports remain as long as the parents request them to remain.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. We'll move on to question number 7, and this one goes to Mr. Lynn. How do you see parent engagement within our schools? Please be specific in examples, and how can it be increased? Mr. Lynn.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. How do you see parent engagement within our schools? Please be specific in examples, and how can it be increased?
Well, this is a great question. One of the things I'm most proud of, being a parent, is being involved in our PTA. I've been a member of the Yale PTA since my oldest, Everett, was a kindergartner. My wife sits on the board of the PTA at Yale. She actually sits on the PTA now board at Apollo, because we want to be involved in and get to know our teachers, get to know our leaders, our campus leaders. And I've seen great things, not just at Yale, but at all the schools in RISD, that have active, involved parents in their PTAs. The question is, what can we do to increase that involvement? I know that this is something, I'm looking at Carolyn Potter right there, this is something that I know the RSD Council of PTAs is working with right now. There are schools that do not have parents very involved in their PTAs, and they're working hard to try to improve that. I would love to encourage that more. Whatever we can do as a board to do that. I know that Dr. Stone has a very high goal to try to get more parents, one voice for every child, and I would really love to see more parent involvement in PTAs.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Ms. Pacheco.
Thank you for that question. It's actually a really important question and subject that I like to study and think about. I have an MBA in global leadership, and through it we have a lot of cultural training on how to work with multicultural teams and people in other parts of the world and how to communicate with them, not just work with them. The one thing here at Richardson, we're an extraordinarily diverse community. We have 150 languages spoken here. And one of the things I would want to do to engage our community is speak to them in their language. I will expand a diverse teacher recruitment initiative so that the instructors can also communicate with our parents who are still English language learners. I would want to engage these parents by doing that. And also, as a leader sitting here, I'm engaging our community as minorities to lead and participate in our students' future.
All right, thank you, Ms. Pacheco. Question number 8 goes to Ms. Pacheco. Without the ability to significantly increase or raise salaries, what ideas do you have to curb teacher turnover rates? Let me read that again. Without the ability to significantly raise salaries, what ideas do you have to curb teacher turnover rates? Ms. Pacheco.
Great question. Again, teacher recruitment, right, and turnover rates. Yes, salaries, we're still competitive. We're not as competitive as some of our neighboring districts. How would I curb this retention and also recruit? By providing them extra and added benefits, not just our regular medical benefits, but benefits they receive here at school. Maybe we can have in-house daycare programs for some of our teachers, and in turn also have students learn how to do early childhood, be early childhood instructors. Benefits by providing them teaching assistants so that they don't have as much stress with our higher classes. We can also afford them to be allowed to bring their children to these schools that they teach in so that they don't have to drive back and forth from where they live. And that way they have a better network of their teachers, and they know the other teachers, and they're encouraged to expand on that benefit and tell their friends to come on over to Richardson. It's great. That's some of my plans that I would do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pacheco. Mr. Lynn.
What can we do to keep our teachers? Wow, if I had the answer to that question. You know, we've been asking that question ever since I came on the board in 2015. We're in a highly competitive area in DFW, and many school districts around us are looking at our teachers because we have the best teachers in the state, and they want to bring them to their schools. I don't blame them, but what can we do as a board or as a district to keep our folks? And I think, number one, it starts with something that starts with leadership. You have a great leader, and we have a great leader in Dr. Jeannie Stone. Number two, it's something that I know she's trying to change right now with her Say Something initiative, which is changing the culture. You want to make sure that teachers have a great place to work and they love coming to work. And we have tons of teachers in our ISD that love coming to work. Finally, one of the things I know that Dr. Stone has done that I really love is when a high school student or they see a high school student is interested in teaching, she hands her a certificate and says, you have an open contract at RISD if you decide to come back here. I think that's a fantastic way to encourage not only people to come back to RISD, but to encourage folks to get into teaching. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Question 9 goes to Mr. Lynn first. What specific steps would you support to implement diversity and inclusion across the district? Let me read that again. What specific steps would you support to implement diversity and inclusion across the district? Mr. Lynn.
Well, it's a great question. We took a big step this last year towards a more open, I would say, I don't want to say system, but a more open district where we adopted the equity policy. The equity policy, some of the people know in his room, was born from the strategic plan. And the strategic plan was created when RISD put together 300 people came together to create the strategic plan to give us a North Star for the next 5 years. And this was one of the recommendations that came out of the strategic plan, was that RISD create and adopt a policy on equity, diversity, and inclusion. And what that policy is going to do is it creates a lens by which the district views the decisions that are being made, and ensures the fact that we are being fair to all. I mean, this one of the things that I hold dear is that the saying that when I started my school board service in 2015 is that all means all. What this policy does is ensure that all means all, and that all decisions that are being made by the district are inclusive and with respect to all people.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Ms. Pacheco.
I honestly want to say I was extraordinarily surprised that in 2018, 2019, a diversity, equity, and inclusion policy didn't exist in a place of work or a district. I am glad that finally it's still here and it's been created, and I know it's excellent because I've reviewed it. I would expand on making sure that this policy is truly driven, taught, and provided to every single member in this district, and that includes every single student as well. How would I make sure it goes across the district? Go back with teacher training, go back to recruiting diverse educators, administrators. We also have to be examples of the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and hire people that are diverse, and include other types of identifiable people. As a leader here or as trustees, we would also want to show diversity and inclusion in those programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pacheco. Question number 10 will go to Ms. Pacheco first. 29 of the approximately 40 elementary schools saw their scores go down during this school year. How would you implement equal achievement across all schools? Let me read that again. 29 of the approximately 40 elementary schools saw their scores go down during this school year. How would you implement equal achievement across all schools? Ms. Pacheco.
First, I'd like to say that Dr. Stone has done a great job in turning around a lot of programs and plans and student achievement overall for every school in our district. Unfortunately, the scores were down about, 30%, 50 points, something like that. And that isn't actually correlating directly with today's programs or standards. It correlates to 3 to 4 years back. There was something that occurred. Maybe around 2014, 2015, our education rates and scores were level after they had increased some. And then something happened within these years, and the result was a lower score. I would probably want to reduce our class sizes. I know this is really difficult, but we have to study our real estate and expand classroom locations to reduce class sizes. I would have preferred to have seen longer class blocks, especially in high school, instead of having 45-minute blocks. I think that's going to hinder our students, their learning, and it doesn't really help them with their achievements. So that's what I would do. I would want to improve on class time and reduce classes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pacheco. Mr. Lynn.
So why are the scores down is the question. When we look at our schools, we're not comparing apples to apples. First of all, we have to understand that. Every school is different. Every school has different needs. But what we also need to realize is that the way a school operates and functions starts with campus leadership. And last year, Dr. Stone did a complete overhaul of our curriculum in our ISD. And she did that overhaul because the curriculum before she came on board wasn't matching the rigor of the evaluation that we use, which is the STAR test. So now our curriculum will more closely match the rigor of the STAR test, which gives our kids a better opportunity for success. So one thing that we all need to understand, we're in the first year, well, now we're in the second year, but we've only had 1 year of this new curriculum. And many of our folks have to get trained in it, have to adapt to it, have to adapt their teaching strategies to it. It's a very good system that we've adopted because it's used in almost 85% of the school districts across the state of Texas. So again, it takes time. It does not have, change does not happen overnight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Question 11 goes to Mr. Lynn first. Do you support an increase in the use of technology in the classroom to permit students to advance at their own rate?
There's a lot in that question, but I'll take the first part. Do I support technology in the classroom? Yes, absolutely, 100% do I support technology in the classroom. I was just asked this question the other day, as a matter of fact, and the way I answered it was this. When the Challenger disaster happened, I was sitting in a computer lab in the 5th grade at Northlake Elementary with the old monochrome green screens. And I'm telling you this story because we all need to realize that our kids are operating in a vastly different world than what we all grew up in. And our kids need to be trained on the technology of today in order to be able to compete in the future. So the second part of that question is advancing, using technology to advance at their own rate. Yes, I do support that. I think that what technology gives us is flexibility. And it gives teachers flexibility. It gives us a way to track how a child is doing by using technology in a much different way than what we have before. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Ms. Pacheco.
Thank you for your question. I do support technology in the classroom because technology is everywhere and it's going to be used everywhere for every student that goes to work and does something with their life. Technology is even when you're scanning your groceries. So that is very important. They need to be proficient. Should they use it to advance at their own pace? If the teacher is able to allow to do that and the student can advance at their own pace and it's going to, help them with their work or keep them from just sitting there and be bored, absolutely they can. I think it causes a little bit of stress, however, for students who can't advance at their own pace and they're in the same classroom. So if we have a lot of students doing this, then maybe those students need to be moved to a different class that has a higher standard, more rigor, like an AP class, an honor course, or something to that effect. I've actually experienced this when I was at school. I was slightly disrupted because I wanted to play and give everybody do their homework. So instead, they put me in a room with little punch cards to create my program. So I was advancing at my own pace, and I wasn't keeping the other kids from learning. So yeah, I agree with both things. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pacheco. Question 12 goes to Ms. Pacheco first. What important factors would you use to evaluate the superintendent's proposals and performance? Let me read that again. What important factors would you use to evaluate the superintendent's proposals and performance? Ms. Pacheco.
This is difficult evaluation. I don't think it would be really hard. She does a great job. What factors would I look at? The success in her proposals. She is the expert. We would have to see the numbers and how many students received the benefit of such proposals, and how many students performed, what is the percentage, what happened, how many schools were impacted, and is the initiative being moved over to other schools that need more help, or what kind of performance she had geared towards pre-K, for example, or elementary schools. And just like anyone else in her business, right? What kind of leader is she? What was retention like? I think those are just basic business factors that we would evaluate her on. But overall, I think she just passed and continue doing the great work that she's doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Pacheco. Mr. Lynn.
Thank you for the question. What factors would I use to evaluate the superintendent's proposals? This is something that I've been doing since 2015. And as a parent of 3 kids in our ISD, I always look at the proposal and how does it impact my kids? How does it impact their future? Because as a parent, I can't look any other way. I have to realize that, and I thought about this long and hard, because a long time ago someone asked me, why are you running for the school board? And I said, well, because if I can make an impact for my 3 kids, I know that I'm making an impact, a positive impact for a whole lot of other kids. And that's what this comes down to, is the policy good for kids? And next, if it's good for kids, is it good for the district? And does it positively impact our schools, our teachers, and our kids? And so we've been doing that. At least I've been using that philosophy since 2015, and I feel like it's proven me well.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Question 13 will go to Mr. Lynn first. What do you see as the highest priority for the next RISD bond election? What do you see as the highest priority for the next RISD bond election? Mr. Lynn.
Thank you. So one of the things that we've been working on for the last couple of years, actually, I'm looking at Sandra Hayes in the audience, who's also a District 2 resident, is one of the things that we have to understand is that we have facilities that are now approaching 50, 60, 70 years old in some cases. Our next bond will have to focus not just on replacing air conditioners and chalkboards and short throw projectors for classrooms. All those things are important, and all those things are going to happen too. But the facilities audit that we just completed, which was a recommendation from the strategic plan that we do, indicated that we have some serious structural issues in some of our buildings. And we cannot look past that, folks, because we have to have safe and secure facilities for our teachers to teach in and for our kids to learn in. And so one of the things that we are going to have to really fully realize is keeping these systems in place costs a lot of money. And so what I see for our next bond is having to replace some of our aging facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Ms. Pacheco.
Thank you. For the next bond election, I would probably also consider school renovations and expansion, or looking at the real estate of current and existing buildings to expand on, improve, and add pre-K classrooms, because we really need those, and we have a large group of children that are starting school and we need to prepare them and give them that strong foundation for success. The second thing I would do would be just, fund art programs, salaries for our teachers, include technology and systems and lab and any necessary item that our robotics and our STEM programs need to succeed, including our career certificate courses, like our pharmacy courses. I'm sure they need some sort of product or materials. So that's what I would focus on for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pacheco. This will be our last question before moving to closing statements. Question 14 will go to Ms. Pacheco first. Is it time to rethink Richardson ISD's neighborhood school concept? If so, what are your ideas on how to restructure? If not, why? Let me read that again. Is it time to rethink Richardson ISD's neighborhood school concept? If so, what are your ideas on how to restructure? If not, why not? Ms. Pacheco.
I think the neighborhood concept works. It actually benefits our families. They keep families together. The parents, once we get them engaged, will be able to attend their close and neighborhood school. How would I make sure that we don't overflow our schools? We don't have to restructure them. We just have to look at additional spaces and expand, not remove our neighborhood children from where they go. We just need to create more spaces and create more neighborhood locations so that those students can still attend within the area that they are close by, not having to spend extra time on the bus, not being able to arrive for tutoring or stay after school for tutoring, or stay for programs that they'd like to attend to, but they can't because somehow someone had to send them over to a non-neighborhood school. So I would really support in keeping neighborhood schools and expand and add more neighborhood schools for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pacheco. Mr. Lynn.
Is it time to rethink the neighborhood school concept? Absolutely not. Part of what makes RSD great is our values and our neighborhood schools. That's why we have people moving back to RISD in droves. That's why we have a student population that is increasing, not decreasing. And why we have capacity issues at some of our schools is because we have great neighborhoods and great schools. And I'm very proud of that. But I will tell you that what the strategic plan told us, though, is that we do not have a neighborhood schools policy. We have boundary lines that create neighborhood schools, but we don't have a policy that governs the boundary lines. So I'm looking at Eric Eager, who served on the committee. Thank you, Eric, for your service. We need to adopt part of the recommendation was to adopt a neighborhood schools policy. And I think we are moving towards that goal. And once we have that policy in place, there will be full transparency, at least that's my expectation, be full transparency about how decisions are made and how decisions are made at the district level that directly impact families. and making decisions about where families move. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Okay, our time for questions has expired, so thank you very much, both candidates. Closing statements will be made in the reverse ballot order. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. We'll start with Ms. Pacheco. Ms. Pacheco?
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. You guys know my name, but I'm going to tell you again, Vanessa Pacheco. I'm running for the district because I am passionate about high-quality education. I want to represent our diverse community in this leadership role as trustee. I believe that together we can grow our children to be successful, well-rounded citizens in this world-changing economy. I come from a teenage mom who worked in a factory, and my grandmother as well. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's noble and it's hard work, but I wanted something more. And with the support of my parents and excellent educators, I achieved all of my goals. I believe all our children can do this. I am an excellent example of exceeding the limits of a disadvantaged minority who is also a second English language learner. I want to make fiscally responsible decisions. With my experience in finance and leadership, I can help improve our community engagement. I can help make decisions that are fiscally responsible to promote an educational foundation that is complete, holistic, and achievable for every student, regardless of whether they choose a trade, a certificate, or go to college. I want to improve our college graduation rates, not only now, but their college graduation, their high school graduation rates, their certificate rates. And I just want to tell you that this time you have a choice. I'm here, and I hope you all go vote. Remember, it's November 5th, and my name is Vanessa Pacheco. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pacheco. Mr. Lynn?
Thank you all for being here tonight. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you, Councilman Mitchell, for agreeing to be here and moderate. You've done a fantastic job. I've been so proud to represent my community on the school board since 2015. My wife and I moved to Richardson in 2007, but I wasn't a stranger to Richardson. I grew up next door in Garland, attended Naaman Forest High School. Both my parents, my father and my mother, are graduates of RHS, Richardson High School. I spent a great many days at my aunt's house across from Apollo Junior High School, riding my bike around the neighborhood, getting to know Duck Creek. I have strong roots here. I was ecstatic when my wife agreed to move back to Richardson. We moved back because Richardson has great neighborhoods, because they have great schools. And I can tell you that RISD today is in a very good place. We have had, with the bond 2016, we've had one of the most successful bond programs in RISD history. It achieved a 66% approval rate from the voters. We've also improved our community engagement process for capital projects, and I've helped also create the Academic Calendar Committee, something that the Dallas Morning News recognized in their endorsement of me today. And if you've not seen that endorsement, I have copies out on the table. You can pick that up on your way out. But because we have a better community engagement policy, we have better school projects. You can look at the Lake Highlands High School expansion project as a key example of how the community and RISD teachers work together. My name is Aaron Lynn. I believe I'm the best candidate for District 2, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Let's give these candidates a big round of applause. Audience, thank you again for coming tonight and for your attention to the candidates. We'll see you at the polls. Thank you.